Introductions. Purpose. The introduction is a place of great emphasis, and therefore it should be short, purposeful, as well as creating expectation. There are many different ways to write an introduction, so don't feel that you always have to follow the same pattern. However, it's good to try and think of an introduction as a place where you give a brief introduction to the main points that will be explored in your essay. Introductions. How long? You may wonder how long your introduction should be. It's important to consider the length of your introduction in relation to the length of a piece of writing as a whole. If you're writing a 5-paragraph essay or a dissertation, then obviously your introduction will be of a different length. In a 5-paragraph essay, your introduction will be the first paragraph, whereas if you're writing a dissertation, then the introduction will be your first section. As a rough guide, you may try to have your introduction as 5 to 10% of your total word count. One chance to make a first impression. Remember that you only have one chance to make a first impression. What you say in the introduction can make a lasting impression on your reader, as well as affecting their view of what is to follow. Let's illustrate this. Imagine that a man goes on a blind date. Unfortunately, he's forgotten to zip up his trousers properly, so that his shirt is sticking out of his fly. What is the first impression that his date is going to have when they meet? It doesn't matter how handsome or charming the man is, when the date goes home, the thing that will be remembered is the man's shirt sticking out of his fly. Grab the reader's attention, show what is to come. When writing an introduction, try to achieve two things. Firstly, grab the reader's attention and give the reader an indication of what is to come. The thesis statement should act as a means of telling the reader what is to be expected. You can get the reader's attention by means of a hook. Try to think of a hook in the same way as when someone is fishing. Once the fish has swallowed the hook, the fish then travels in the direction dictated by the fisherman. However, the hook has to first be baited with something attractive that will appeal to the fish. Let us look at some ways in which the writer can bait the hook and so hopefully get the reader's attention. Roadmap. Signposting. If your essay is a road taking your reader from the beginning of your argument to the end, then the introduction can be said to act as a roadmap showing the different stages that you will explore along the way. Identifying the different sections of your argument is called signposting. Therefore, you may use phrases like "firstly we will look at" or "the second section focuses on." Identifying the subject. Probably the easiest and most common way of identifying the subject of your essay is to refer back to the question that you have been set. However, be careful not just to repeat the question virtually word for word. Your teacher or your examiner already knows the question, so they don't need you to repeat it. Therefore, try to find a creative way to refer to the topic in the question. Here is an example. Imagine that the question is, evaluate the claim that Citizen Kane is the greatest movie ever made. You may want to mention in your introduction, Citizen Kane has consistently been voted by critics as the greatest movie of all time. This essay will look at the basis of this popularity and evaluate its success in comparison to other films. Here the subject has been identified as well as indicating how the subject will be examined. Define terms. While you may not need to define everything that you will look at in your essay, The introduction may be used to define such things as key concepts, technical terms, specific aspects of theories that will be explored, or terms that are to be explored. For example, since the collapse of international communism, Marxist theory has been in crisis. Here, you may want to define which aspect of Marxist theory you're referring to. You may also want to explain how you'd define the crisis that you're referring to. An anecdote or story. Try to use a short story that not only illustrates the point that you are making, but also appeals to the reader's mind or heart. If you decide to use a story that will appeal to the reader in an emotional way, remember not to make it too emotional. If the reader finds the story too sentimental, it will have the reverse of the desired effect and actually dissuade the reader from reading further. A surprising fact or statistic. Try to use something that will make your reader stop and think. You may decide to present this information in a short, simpler sentence so as to maximize the impact. For example, doctors claim that within 2 years, 1 in 5 people in Africa will be dead from AIDS. Very little needs to be added to a statement like that to further maximize the impact. Quotation. If you choose to use a short, effective quotation in your introduction, remember to try to use one from a relevant authority in the field that you're dealing with. For example, if the topic of the essay is soccer, then it is probably better to use a quote from the former Brazilian soccer international Pelé rather than from Mother Teresa. While Mother Teresa was a famous person, she was not known as an authority on soccer. Background. The type and extent of the historical background or context that is used may well depend on the audience. This may be affected by what the reader already knows and what they want to know about the context of what you'll be saying. An academic audience may well expect a detailed background to what you'll be saying, while the more casual reader may expect less. A common misconception. The statement of a common misconception helps to get your reader's attention, as they may well share that belief themselves. It also shows your reader that you are aware of different aspects of your topic and that you have done research on the topic. Ask a question. Raising a question is a good way to get your reader thinking on a topic. You may raise a question which will be briefly answered in the thesis statement, but which will be more fully developed in the essay as a whole. Introduction basics. Having mentioned many different suggestions for your introduction, you may be feeling that there are too many things to include in your short introduction. Remember that what we have discussed are different possibilities. You do not have to include all of these suggestions in your introduction. So if you're writing a short essay of about 1,000 words in length, what are some of the basics that you really should try to include? Basics for an introduction should include identifying the subject of the essay and define any key terms, show the main arguments that are behind the topic, signpost your essay's main argument. When to write your introduction. The problem with signposting the main sections of your argument is that sometimes you do not know what your arguments are until you've actually written your essay. Therefore, you may find it beneficial to start with a temporary version of your introduction that you will finish in your rewrite after you finally polished your argument. This may be easy to do if you're writing using a word processor. However, if you are writing an examination essay, you may not have the chance for such a rewrite. Therefore, it's important to plan your essay well before you write it. In this way, your introduction can better signpost what it is that you're going to say.